as the drivers pull away for their formation lap, let's just take a recap of the qualifying results, which did see one of the closest finishing to qualifying. So Brandon Tanti, with his 13th career pole position, lines up alongside former pole position, former winner Brian Cruz. In the second row, we've got Dylan Anderson, Red Bull Racing, and alongside former teammate Peter Dongo at Scuderia Ferrari. We've got Luke Snape in P5, alongside returning Kane Hoggard, which will be continuing his impressive run of form for Renault Sport Formula 1 team. We've got Jezemchovski makes his debut for Williams Martini Racing, replacing Jonathan Formica, who has out-qualified Lindsay Hobb in the Mercedes. We've got Chris Paterjack, who's been out-qualified by his teammate for the first time this season, starts P9 ahead of Trent Fuller in the Renault. P11, we've got Steve Shadlow, who's struggling a little bit with Toro Rosso after being demoted from the Premier team. He's alongside Craig, and on the last row we have Jonathan Formica, who makes his debut for Sauber with no time set in qualifying. So we're looking ahead at the 29-lap Bahrain Grand Prix. We're riding on board here with Steve Shadlow as he just looking to warm up the tyres, get a grip, get a feel for the car. Obviously full fuel, or 50% fuel, for this sprint race, as we call. We haven't had a safety car this season, so it'll be interesting. Obviously there have been little complications there with Codemasters, but hopefully with the patch that's come out, we should be seeing some safety car action tonight, as it has been a while since we've had safety car. So we've got Brandon Tanti, Red Bull Racing, leading them around, finishing off the formation lap. They're all going to break here, reform their grid, and we are moments away from lights out for the Season 9 Traxstar Bahrain Grand Prix. So keep in mind that Brandon Tanti has never won the Bahrain Grand Prix or started from pole position. However, the person directly beside him has on 2 occasions. So here we go, we've got 3 lights, we've got 4 lights, we have 5 lights, and we are lights out, and away we go. It's a very clean start here by Brandon Tanti. The Red Bull Racing's got to look for the... Oh! The Ferrari has come from absolute nowhere. Has that spooked the reigning world champion into turn 1? No, it hasn't, but there's Ferraris all over the place here. There is internet lag, and it is an absolute ghost land here in the Bahrain Grand Prix, but it seems to be settled down now, and it's a clean start heading down into the end of the first sector, and it looks like there's a bit of... Oh, Steve Shadlow here has had a lunge on Jonathan Formica, who is in the Force India due to issues with qualifying, but he is allocated to the Sauber, so the points will go to Sauber. A little bit running over the curb there. We'll run down into the first hairpin as such. Steve Shadlow here is looking over the back of Lindsay Hobb, who has a massive snap of oversteer as we run down to, I'm not too sure what corner this is, but we're all aware of it as we've got the run down onto the back straight. Lindsay Hobb is under attack from the Toro Rosso, with Brandon Tanti really starting to open up a little bit of a gap out the front. He's got the former world champion and his former teammate right up his gearbox as he approaches the penultimate corner, with a 4/10 gap between him and the Ferrari. And I'm sure throughout testing, and it was looking very promising for Brandon Tanti to come out strong this season, but it hasn't panned out that way in the points. There's a 20-point margin between first and second as he crosses the line to set the fastest lap of the race, the first and only fastest lap of the race. And Lindsay Hobb pulls into the pits for Mercedes. He obviously must have picked up some front wing damage there with the contact in the mid-pack. So we're riding on board once again with Steve Shadlow, and we're moving on with Dylan Anderson, who's fallen back a little bit from Peter Dongo. He's lost out due to the sort of witchcraft that was happening there with the Ferraris and the connection. A huge snap of oversteer there as he crosses the split. He's purple, obviously everyone will be, but he's 6/10 behind the Ferrari ahead of him. And We're along with Steve Shadlow, he's made some contact there with Chris Paterjack in the Williams. He's set infield.
Go that slow.
He's obviously caught out there. He's not happy with it. He's lost out to the Jonathan Formica in the Force India and Craig in the Sauber. So it's a very, very scruffy lap. He's lost 2 places. And, he's on the curb. No, he's run deep. He's going to lose out. Oh, there's a bit of contact there. Obviously, Steve Shadlow is not happy with that level of contact, but have to admit, he's lost 3 positions in a matter of corners. And once again, we've got Peter here, who's had a massive snap of the oversteer. He's prevented Anderson from having the lunge on him. And he's gone wide again, and Anderson does not need a second invitation to clinch that moment. He's better run out of that corner than what Peter did. He shut the door on him and said, "No way, mate, you're not sneaking behind me." Definitely no love lost between those former teammates. And I must say, these 2 guys are Season 1 veterans. They've been with us throughout the 9 seasons of Formula 1 racing here in the F1OWC. So it's good to see these guys out on track in action with the, the next generation, the current generation of drivers leading the pack out in front with Brandon and Brian Cruz. What's impressive here, we've got Honest Crook, or aka as we know him in real terms, we've got Jesm, who's made his return to the F1OWC after a brief stint in Season 7, but his debut for Williams, he's up there in P4, and he's starting to hone in on the back of a struggling Dylan Anderson here in the Renault, or Renault-powered Red Bull, I should say. But once again, we're here with Brandon Tanti. He's keeping that consistent 6/10 margin between him and his former teammate and Ferrari rival Brian Cruz. So it looks like Steve Shadlow here is nursing a little bit of front wing damage, but he's looking at closing in on the back of Craig to hopefully reduce some of the damage that was inflicted with that minor issue with Chris Paterjack and the Williams. Now, it is reported that the reason that the Williams was running so slow was due to connection issues and lag. So that's cost Steve Shadlow bucket loads of time here. But he's managed to close up and reduce the gap to the back of the Sauber. Craig was absent for the majority, or if not all, of practice. So he's definitely going to be on the back foot here in the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Not what I wanted.
See Steve Shadlow there expressing his discomfort coming through that last corner. He ran a little bit deep, probably a little bit of understeer, carried a little bit too much speed through that final corner. But he's all over the back of Craig now, who, well, I have to say, Craig is being held up a little bit by Jonathan Formica in the Force India. So it's going to be a matter of time. If Craig wants to hold on to his position, he needs to get past the Force India, and it's not going to happen now because
what a pass!
Steve has thrown it down the inside, and he's absolutely with joy inside that cockpit for that overtake. I must say, credit to Steve Shadlow there. It was very, very clean racing there from the seasoned F1OWC driver. But he's made up some grounds, passing Craig obviously, and he's now closing in on the back of Jonathan.
Man, I wish I didn't spin out.
Oh, very close to losing the front wing there. But he's got the DRS this lap. He's definitely going to front a move. Is he going to throw it down the inside? Is he going to back out? No, he's just about going to hold on to it. And a little bit of a gesture there for Jonathan Formica, the rookie, suggesting that he should just let him through without contest. But Jonathan Formica's come back and he's bumped Steve Shadlow very wide there as we rejoin Dylan Anderson, who comes across the line to commence the 5th lap of this Bahrain Grand Prix. However, he is now just being passed by Jesm in the Williams due to DRS assistance there, but it's definitely all coming apart here for Dylan Anderson. He's massively behind the leaders there, where Steve Shadlow goes very deep into turn 1 and he's absolutely reduced and salvaged some damage limitation there after that contact with the Williams. But he is massively, massively behind the Ferrari there of Peter Dongo. So we're back on with the race leader, and it's a 2-horse race here one being a bull and the other actually being the prancing horse. So excuse the pun there. And it's heavy braking, and Lindsay Hobb in the Mercedes, after that early pit stop, he's come out with the fastest lap of the race. But who's going to be the bravest? If we're edging the first pit stop window here, will it be Brian Cruz in the Ferrari, or will it be Brandon Tanti opting to go first? So we're riding back on board with the second Red Bull, with Dylan Anderson here trying to front an attack on Jesem after losing that place into turn 1. But I have to admit, Jesem has run wide, but can Dylan hang it around the outside? No, but he gets the better drive out of the hairpin. And it's very important here for Dylan to get past the Williams, because he's been under attack by the quicker driver behind him, Luke Snape. But Jesem's ran a little deep, lost all that speed, and Dylan sails past. And it looks like Luke Snape in the Mercedes has also countered an attack there on the Williams. So Jesem, unfortunately, with all that hard work done in the early parts of the race, has lost out 2 places in the space of 1 quarter. With Brandon Tanti out in front, it's definitely looking very good at this stage for Red Bull Racing, with the only win for the team from Milton Keynes coming in Season 1 at the hands of Dylan Anderson. So it's good to see Red Bull there back at the top, with Luke Snape throwing it down the inside into turn 1, and it's absolutely compromised Anderson's run, and he's lost out to Luke Snape in the Mercedes, but he's come under attack from both Honest Crook, or Jesem in the Williams, but also 2 cars behind Chris Padajak in the Williams behind him. So it's a double attack there from the Williams behind, but it seems he's managed to hold out. We've got a little pop-up there saying that Craig Campen has retired from the race for Sauber, so it's a disappointing race for him, and it looks like Steve Shadlow is the first to jump on that and bite the bullet for the first pit stop. So he's gone on to the super softs. He's taken on a new front wing there, and with 60% front tyre wear, I'm actually surprised that Brandon Tanti hasn't come into the pits yet. It's definitely approaching that window. We're on lap 8 here. He's opened up a monumental gap over the Ferrari, the biggest that we've seen so far this race. But it appears, the safety car is out, fellas. We have seen the safety car for the first time in season 9 of the F1OWC. So it's perfect timing for the leaders coming through the final corner. They can pretty much go straight into the pit lane without losing any time to the rest of the pack. So it's going to be all down to the pit stops here, and it's a very clean 2.7 second pit stop there for Red Bull Racing, and both Brandon Tanti and Brian Cruz opt for the medium compound. They think that they can run 20 laps to the end of the Grand Prix. So we're going to rejoin the circuit here as we trundle around to recatch the safety car. Now, will Dylan Anderson opt to pit as well? No, he doesn't. He's opted to stay out for some track position, which is crucial at this point. But will it pay off? But it appears that Dylan Anderson and both Dylan and Luke have lost out there to Honest Crook or Jesem in the Williams, because they were both ahead of the Williams, so they've both been undercut due to pit stops, and I think that is purely down to Luke Snape's slow running there while trying to catch the pack, and they've both lost out, with Jesem being on the super soft or superior compound tyre. So the safety car is coming in this lap. We're on lap 10. It's actually the first time in probably a long time that I can remember Brandon Tanti leading the pack under a safety car restart. So hopefully he's done his mileage in the simulator and he can really get a jump here on the green and capitalise and defend from the Ferrari. Now, I have to mind you, the Ferrari is in a position, or Brian Cruz is in a position here to make some history for Ferrari, becoming the first person to win 3 consecutive races for Scuderia Ferrari. It's never happened before. He's tied on 2 with the winner, and Brandon Tandy's absolutely nailed the start of that race. He's got an 8/10 lead over second place on the restart alone. So from the last corner to the line, he's opened up 8/10. So it's a perfect restart there for the reigning world champion. But it looks like Dylan Anderson's under a bit of attack here from Chris Padajak, who is on the superior compound tyre. And a little bit of contact there. Chris Padajak has bumped Anderson wide and he's ghosted ahead, so he's inherited that witchcraft from Ferrari, and that's opened up the free passage there for Kane Hoggard in the Renault. So obviously it's sent absolutely compromised Anderson's run through that corner, spooked by the lag, and then Kane Hoggard is just like, yes please, I'll take that. So it's not the best restart there for a 4-time world champion, which is Dylan Anderson, but hopefully on the same compound tyre as Kane Hoggard, he can contest once the tyres start to warm up. So small indications there that Chris Padajak has still got a little bit of lag, a little bit of witchcraft there happening, but it seems to be smoothing out. Oh, with Trent Fuller there making a little bit of a mistake. The rear wanted to come round through that penultimate corner. Steve Shadlow's absolutely nailed the exit. Is he going to get it under braking? I think he is. He's got to pull it up. Don't run wide. Don't make contact. And yes, I agree. What a pass. That was excellent racing there by Steve Shadlow. He's demonstrating some high quality overtakes in such a short career there for the season definitely WC driver. So we've got, whoa, massive moment there for Dylan Anderson, the Red Bull. He's almost slammed into the back of the Renault and he's lost out to Jonathan Formica there in the Force India, but now he's under attack from Lindsay Hobb, who is on the superior compounded tyre, and in the matter of a few corners he's absolutely tumbling down. He's lost 2 positions there, and it's been a disgraceful restart to the first safety car, if I can say so myself. But it looks like Jonathan Formica there's having a bit of a moment, so hopefully it can compromise Lindsay there a little bit, and the 4-time world champion can start to front an attack and earn those positions back. But we've got Steve Shadlow here approaching the back of the Red Bull, so it looks like Anderson's work is not done yet. He may come under some pressure there from the Toro Rosso driver, who is looking for a little bit of redemption after losing his seat at the senior team at the end of last year. He still managed to stay within the Red Bull family as such, being the lead driver at Toro Rosso. We've got Jonathan Formica there running off the track, and Lindsay's going around the outside, Dylan's going around the other, and in the space of 300-400 metres, Jonathan Formica's lost 2 places. A fair play there for Jonathan Formica though, not to make any contact by going left or right. He demonstrates good visibility there with the attacking cars. Steve Shadlow's, no, I am having some of this as well. Is he going to throw it down the inside? Yes, he is. And it's an absolute terrible 2.5 corners there for Jonathan Formica, who's lost 3 positions in a matter of moments. And Steve Shadlow's gone, no thanks, they've banged wheels and just given Jonathan Formica the old what's what and say, look son, you're only a rookie, know your place as such. We're all here trying to fight for points, but hopefully the stewards may or may not want to look into that, or it might be just purely down to racing. But once again, we've got another safety car here, ladies and gentlemen, so the attack that Steve Shadlow could have fronted on the back of the Red Bull and potentially Lindsay Hobb in the Mercedes is now completely void. Is Brandon Tanti coming into the pits? No, he's not, and neither is Brian Cruz, so both world champions electing to stay out and hold position may not be the right choice, considering the people behind them will be on the superior compounded tyre. As Dylan Anderson throws a little pit lane dummy there to sort of send Steve Shadlow there the wrong way. Shadlow's having none of that. He goes, no, I know your tactics, son. And it's business as usual there as everyone holds formation and no one elects to do double pit stop. So here we are on the second restart. Steve Shadlow there down behind Peter Dongo, which is absolutely amazing considering how high up. He was running as high as third in the race. So I think he may have been caught out by that second, or that first safety car, but definitely the second one has hurt him. He's on the mediums, and an impressive run there for Steve Shadlow. And almost ran into the back of the Ferrari, but hopefully that hasn't washed off his momentum. He is on 2 compound superior tyres here, and he threads the needle with Trent Fuller intelligently backing out of that and saying, no, I don't want to get caught up into a collision there into turn 1. And Steve Shadlow, overtaker of the Grand Prix at this point, 2 cars into turn 1. So once again, these guys are like magnets. He's on the back of Jonathan Formica in the Force India, and I'm sure that will frustrate Steve Shadlow, because no matter what he does, if Jonathan Formica runs off the track there, he's just got to keep a level head here, Steve Shadlow, because, and which I've just given the commentator's curse here, Shadlow just sails past after Formica had a really, really compromised run out of that first hairpin. So hopefully now that Shadlow is clear of the Force India and Jonathan Formica, he can begin to close the gap to the Red Bull and Dylan Anderson ahead. So we're back on board with the race leader, Brandon Tanti, who is absolutely holding forth out in front. And we have a third safety car. Now, this is starting to get a little bit strange. It might be due to the Codemasters sort of bringing safety cars back into it, because it was gone there for a while, but it looks like we're getting a bit trigger happy here with the safety cars for no apparent reason. So they were half a second apart, Brandon Tanti there and Brian Cruz, but it looks like any attack that Brian Cruz was going to do is now going to be stagnant once again, and it's all going to come for nothing. But it does help them in a way, because they're on these medium tyres, remember, and as long as they can hold suit, the others can't pass. So the more laps that go by, the better they're going to be in. But it's giving everyone else on the grid free pit stops basically. So come the end of the race, if the leaders haven't decided to pit, they're going to come under some attack from everyone else on quicker tyres. We had an absolute truly train going into that pit stops. There's probably 5-6 cars there in the pit stops, and there's a bit of, you don't want to do that, Dylan. You want to let them back through. There'll be no passing under the safety car. You will be penalised, if not disqualified. So he's going to just hold suit there behind Chris Padajak as the safety car is beginning to indicate that it will be coming in this lap. And once again, for the third consecutive time, it's Brandon Tanti that will lead the restart of the Season 9 Traxstar Bahrain Grand Prix, with Brian Cruz behind, Luke Snape, then Chris Padajak, Kane Hoggard, and then Dylan Anderson in the Red Bulls. That's the top 6, and it's looking pretty good at this stage with the 2 leaders on the mediums, with Chris Padajak there on the softs, and likewise with Kane Hoggard on the softs. Dylan Anderson appears to be in the better position here with 9 laps to go on fresh super soft tyres. If the former 4-time world champion ever needed to deliver a winning performance, now is the time. We need qualifying lap after qualifying lap. There can be no excuses here for mistakes as he snakes around turn 1, turn 2 here, a little flat turn 3 as we head on down to turn 4. And it doesn't appear to be closing the back to the Renault, which is a little bit concerning considering the compound difference. We've got Jesem in the Williams, who's looking a little bit hungry behind the Toro Rosso here of Steve Shadlow, but Steve Shadlow could be in probably a position here to get a podium, because if the leaders have to pit because their tyres simply burn out, Steve Shadlow's first in line on the medium compound, so to go out and hold fort, get the points, and could return to the podium for the first time for Toro Rosso, and also it'd be Toro Rosso's first podium in a very, very long time, if not at all. So we're riding on board with Dylan Anderson once again. He's closing in on Kane Hoggard, who runs a little bit wide there, taking a little bit more curb than what he would have liked. But I think Dylan is definitely displaying some pace advantage here over Kane and Chris. But with Kane being held up by Chris, it's also compromising Dylan Anderson, the Red Bull here. But unfortunately, it's allowing the leaders to break a little way and make a little bit of a gap over this battle for third place here, effectively. So I'd just like to point out that last season, Peter Dongo won the Season 8 Bahrain Grand Prix by 2/200ths of a second over Brian Cruz in the Ferrari, which funny enough this year they are teammates at Ferrari, so it's a bit of a swap there with the top 4 drivers, or both Red Bull, both Ferrari, both being former teammates last season, so they all know each other very well. But there's definitely no love lost there between the drivers. We've got Lindsay Hobbs making an attack there on Steve Shadlow. Is he going to leave him room? No, he's not. And it's wheel off. And there's definitely some contact there made by the by the Mercedes, whether or not he saw him or not. But I'm pretty sure the stewards will be looking into that incident, because there was definitely room there for 2-3 cars to go abreast, and he's just moved across, and he was in that position because he was compromised by running deep from the initial overtake. But it's definitely unlucky there for Steve Shadlow, because he was in a position to potentially take a top 5, top 4 finish in the Season 9 Traxstar Bahrain Grand Prix. So we're back on board with Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull, who has yet failed to overtake the Renault of Kane Hoggard, and it appears to be slipping back ever so slightly, which isn't good, which means that that sweet spot of the tyre where he's getting maximum performance is starting to vanish, as we see a little bit more of the witchcraft there from Chris Padajak. It appears to have gone off, but he's spawned back ahead, so there's definitely some connection issue there for the Williams, which is hindering Kane and also Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull. And I cannot believe it, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 4th safety car. We were saying before this race there has been no safety car this season. Well, we're getting a season's worth of safety cars here tonight. Probably a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. It's definitely something Codemasters will have to look at, because going from one extreme of having no safety cars to going to the other and having all the safety cars for no crashes. Like if there was debris or if there was crashes, yeah, I'd understand, but it just seems to be a little bit triggered at the moment. And with 7 laps to go in this Bahrain Grand Prix, Brandon Tanti and Brian Cruz are looking fairly comfortable out front, still electing not to pit, which is very risky. But all the grid's going to be packed or bunched back up for the attack for the sprint to the finish. We've got Kane Hoggard there peeling into the pits, relinquishes the pit stop, or the position I should say, to Dylan Anderson in the Red Bull, who's now going to be on the back of Chris Padajak, but he's going to be a little bit wary because of the connection issue that the Williams has had. You don't want to repeat what's happened earlier in the race and have your race compromised due to witchcraft like that. So we're backed up nice and early in the lap. I think the safety car's been going very slow this race, which isn't ideal, especially if you're trying to get temperatures up and whatnot. If you drop too far back to give yourself some space, you get the warning for slowing down too much. So hopefully what will be the 4th and final safety car restart, Brandon Tanti backs the pack up, and he's got Brian Cruz right behind him with Luke Snape there in third, and then we've got Chris Padajak in fourth, Dylan Anderson, Red Bull in P5. He'll be targeting that third spot on the podium, and we've got Lindsay Hobb in the Mercedes behind in P6, but he's probably going to come under some scrutiny with that contact there with the Toro Rosso of Steve Shadlow. So lights go green. We have a 3-lap sprint to the finish. Can Dylan Anderson front an attack on the Williams, and see you later, Chris Padajak. He's rotated into turn 1. He's taken an abundance of curb, and he's lost out heavily, and that relinquishes probably the most difficult overtake that Dylan was going to have to face due to that connection issue. So it's just a matter of closing in on the back of Luke Snape in the Mercedes. Mind you, Red Bull has a compounded advantage, but there's going to be a little bit of wear there, and come the last few laps of the race, I feel that Luke Snape is most likely going to have some more life on his tyres, as it's a more durable compound. So Dylan Anderson is very confident in trying to front an attack for third place. It needs to be now. He needs to get it done before his tyres wear out. It's easy to defend, not so much to attack with wear tyres. So Brandon Tanti goes purple in the second split, so he could potentially be on for a fastest lap of the race to end lap 26. So he's still once again ahead of Brian Cruz, with Dylan Anderson getting ever closer to the back of the Mercedes. Now mind you, Luke Snape joined Mercedes under tough criticism with him fulfilling 5 consecutive constructor titles there for Mercedes AMG Petronas. So he's closer than he has been at any stage this race to the back of the Mercedes, but he's in the middle of a Mercedes sandwich here with Lindsay Hobb closing in on the back of the 4-time world champion. So a little bit of snap there of oversteer, trying to get the power on when this is the first season that Dylan Anderson is actually running no traction control due to the development of the car and the extra mechanical grip that this game offers. So he pulled out. He's avoided missing the back of the Mercedes. Now respect to that, but he's got out onto the curb and is obviously bottomed out. He can't pull it up, and he's made contact with the wall, unfortunately, which is absolutely shattered any hopes of finishing on the podium this evening. He's dropping positions like no tomorrow. He's down back behind Chris Padajak, who's looking to rebuild after that spin into turn 1. But it looks like Anderson's going to be in the pits for a new front wing, as Peter Dongo is having a look. He wants to get past his former teammate to front end attack on Chris Padajak. And it's a new fastest lap there for Brian Cruz, as Anderson peels into the pits and dropping to last place in the Season 9 Bahrain Grand Prix. So he's into the pits, and no one's here with the wing. They have not changed his front wing, so the pit stop was pointless. It's a mistake there, very, very sloppy play by the Red Bull team for not having that front wing ready. So we've got Brandon Tanti. He's coming around the penultimate corner. He's got a 1.2 second lead over his former teammate and Season 9 champion rival, Brian Cruz, as Brandon Tanti rounds the last corner to win his first race for Red Bull Racing Tag Heuer and his first of Season 9. Brian Cruz brings home solid points, remains the championship leader with an impressive second. Lindsay Hobb managed to sneak his way up there into third place on podium. Now, I'm not too sure how that happened. I think maybe Luke Snape there might have had an issue, maybe a puncher. But yeah, impressive work there for Lindsay Hobb. But let's remember that he's going to be under scrutiny for that contact with the Toro Rosso of Steve Shadlow. So Dylan Anderson, the 10th and final car to cross the line very, very disappointing result there from the four-time world champion. Walks away with 1 point, dropping to 4th place.
And I can see now the drivers are making their way out. We need Red Bull fighting at the front. They do an incredible amount for Formula One, and that's another winner's trophy heading back to Milton Keynes.
Absolute fantastic result there for Red Bull Racing to begin to close the gap to Brian Cruz, who was definitely starting to open up a gap. So it's down to 14 points, I believe, in the championship, and we head off to Russia in 2 weeks' time. So a quick look at the results. Results are yet to be classified, but we will see you in 2 weeks in Sochi.